State teams and the Chip Kelly Oregon teams is what I compared this Indiana team to, where last year's Indiana team wasn't quite that good because against the top 10 teams, they didn't even compete, or at least the top 5 teams. This year's Indiana, I think, is that Chip Kelly, Oregon, Chris Peterson, Boise State team, the better of those teams that seriously could win it all or even have the argument to be number 1 in power ratings, depending on how they do throughout the year. Let's get to that Indiana team, who I think is going to have just an absolute brawl with Oregon this Saturday. I'm very excited to watch it. Here are 10 reasons why Oregon should be defeated by the Indiana Hoosiers. Before I continue, liking the video, watching the video all the way through, and commenting your thoughts down below are the best ways to support the channel, as they help push me into the algorithm, help me to receive a larger paycheck that I can use to reinvest in producing elite analysis for you all. Subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell, sharing the video around, and supporting us in other ways that you can find out via the description are other awesome ways to support our operation at College Football with Sam. We are becoming the best. We want to be the best. Thank you all for making that possible. I'm going to give you 10 reasons why Indiana should beat Oregon. Indiana's undefeated, 5-0, 2-0 in Big Ten Conference play, ranked 7th in America. They travel to also 5-0, 2-0, 3rd ranked Oregon. Both of these teams are top 4 in ESPN's FPI. They're top 3 in S&P Plus from Bill Connolly. The Hoosiers are 7.5-point underdogs, but believe me when I say this team is not to be trifled with. There are many reasons why this team can cover. There are many reasons why this team can and should win. If you're confident, you can have several reasons to say why they will win. Indiana's that good of a team, and what helps them be such a complete national title contender is Fernando Mendoza at quarterback. So Mendoza, 89 of 122, completes 73% of his passes, has over 1,200 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, 1 interception, an 81.8 QBR, which is top 15 in America. He will stand in the pocket and take hits and still deliver dimes to his receivers, Omar Cooper Jr., Elijah Sarratt, E.J. Williams. He is mobile. He does not have 2 torn ACLs, such as Curtis Rourke did. So he has that escapability. He can be used in the run game. He works that RPO offense perfectly. Fernando Mendoza does. And I think that with his ability to make tight throws where only his receivers can catch it, he knows how to lead his receivers into the ball, away from a defender, to where either the pass will be incomplete or it'll be completed. No interceptions. He's very safe, very careful with the football. He had that one bad throw for an interception against Iowa, but Iowa's defense is fierce. I think this Iowa defense is better than last year's Iowa defense, and every game I like what I see out of him. And earlier in the year, I wondered if he would be better than Curtis Rourke. Through 5 games, I can tell you he is better than Curtis Rourke. Oregon's defensive backs are going to have a hard time deceiving this guy and trying to get him to turn over the football. And they're also going to have a hard time trying to bring him down. Reason number 2 is Indiana's wide receivers. Elijah Sarratt, Omar Cooper Jr., E.J. Williams. So Omar Cooper Jr. and Elijah Sarratt have 13 receiving touchdowns. These are receivers who, especially Sarratt, could be playing on Sundays. Both over 6 feet tall. Omar Cooper Jr. is more of their deep threat guy, has a knack for getting big plays, and Sarratt is a receiver who always finds a way to get open. That's why his nickname is Waffle House, because he's always open. Runs clean routes. Him and Mendoza, I believe, have a special connection. And Oregon's defensive backs this year, I thought they would be tested against Penn State's wide receivers, and Penn State's wide receivers had some plays against them, but they didn't have a lot of plays, and Penn State's wide receivers have been disappointing this year. So I think that they will give Dylan Thieneman, Brandon Finney, Ifeoma Badegwu, Jaden Kannady, they will give those defensive backs some tests in the passing game. Reason number 3 why Indiana should win is their defensive style. So Indiana loves to run a bunch of zone, and they love to send 4 or 6 or 5 guys forward at times and get to the quarterback. They produce a ton of havoc. So their run defense, for example, is among one of the nation's best. And in zone coverage, they like to sit there, keep everything in front of them. Rarely do they allow the big play. Their eyes are always locked on the quarterback, and whether they force turnovers or get to the quarterback or simply force punts, their defense does an absolutely phenomenal job. I mean, Bryant Haines is a top 5 paid defensive coordinator, and his unit acts like it. They play like it. Indiana is first nationally in havoc percentage, which means about 1 of every 5 of their opponents' plays, 19.5% is Indiana's havoc rate. 1 out of every 5 of their opponents' plays are a run stuff, a sack, a TFL, a pick, turnover of some kind, or a pass defended. It is a play that goes for little or no gain or a loss. That is how intense this Indiana defense is. They only allow 4.47 yards per carry, and the number is only that high because of 2 plays they allowed to a very mobile Old Dominion quarterback. Their rushing success rate allowed is a 28.9%, pass success rate allowed is a 29.3%, and they allow 4.38 yards per dropback. This defense is effective, and I have a feeling that with Oregon having, yes, a great tight end in Kenyon Sadiq and an excellent wide receiver 1 in Brycen Moore, but not a whole lot around them or behind them. For example, Ohio State had a very deep receiver room last year, so you couldn't cover all of them. I have a feeling that this Indiana defense can do a very good job limiting a few of the playmakers that Oregon has and forcing some of the weaker components of that offense to step up. And will they? We'll have to see. Number 4 is their offensive scheme. So the RPO attack, where Indiana averages 0.42 expected points added per pass and 0.13 expected points added per run. Those are plus numbers, by the way. Those are above average what expected points added is in those categories. So they move the football much more effectively and score more points on their drives than the average college football team does by a wide margin, especially through the air. With Mendoza's quick release and his arm strength, his ability to layer throws, and his touch, that combined with Kobe Martin, Kalen Black, and Roman Hemby with Pat Coogan and Drew Evans, Bray Lynch, Khalil Benson, and Carter Smith blocking in front of them, those last 5 names were Indiana's offensive line, they can move the football very effectively. Iowa did give them some fits. However, Iowa, similarly to Oregon, has a very strong defensive line, and that's really the strength of their team. And then defensive back, linebacker have a lot of potential there, a bit more explosive, but the D-line is Iowa's non-negotiable in the same way that it is for Oregon. But Indiana was able to win that game, scoring 20. They have a really good defense that we previously talked about. I think that this scheme is going to do a better job scaling against Oregon's defense compared to the Notre Dame and Ohio State defense that this offense, with some different players, but some similar players, same players as well, did. And that's point number 5 here, is the talent scaling. So Indiana's more NFL players in 2025 than they did in 2024. They brought back the majority of them. They lost C.J. West and Curtis Rourke, but Mendoza is a first-round pick in the future. Elijah Sarratt will be an NFL pick, probably a day 2 guy. I imagine Omar Cooper Jr. and maybe even E.J. Williams, if he continues to play better and his best ball, could be day 3 guys. I imagine Carter Smith will be drafted. Pat Coogan could be a day 3 pick. I imagine Tyreek Tucker and Mikhail Kamara can be picks off of the defensive line for the Hoosiers. Aiden Fisher could be a day 3 guy. Not a lot of first-round talent, but more day 2 and day 3 guys than they had last year, and even more first-round talent because they didn't have any first-rounders last year, and they do this year in Fernando Mendoza. That really helps in a big game like this, and I feel like Mendoza and these receivers morphed in with that inside zone, short RPO, slant RPO scheme with superior talent scaling and a really good defensive scheme, same as they had last year, can really help them win this matchup. Reason number 6 is Indiana's defensive line. So we already talked about that havoc rate they're generating. Their defensive starters right now, Tyreek Tucker, Mikael Kamara, Jose Wheeler, and Kellen Wyatt. And you also have Stephen Daly, Mario Landino, Dominique Ratcliffe, and Andrew Turvey in that second string defensive line. They are not big by any stretch, but they are fast, disciplined, and very strong for their size. Very strong. And people have pointed out before that Oregon had that size mismatch over Penn State, and you clearly saw that in the trenches. However, that game was still close. Penn State still won the line of scrimmage in the fourth quarter, and Indiana has had superior quarterback play, superior wide receiver play. We can all agree they're better coached, and they've also played better on defense per the metrics than Penn State has. They're better than Penn State. So I think that this defensive line can compensate for its size a bit. They have Haines and these players have done a very good job at that. It's more so their defensive tackles that are undersized. Tucker is still over 300 pounds, and Kamara, Wyatt, and Daly are actually pretty big, and I love their size for defensive ends. I mean, it helps that Kamara is a surefire future NFL draft pick, most surefire NFL draft pick on that defensive line. It's one of college football's best defensive lines, and you wouldn't think so from a raw recruiting or metric standpoint, but they punch above their weight class. Their film is extremely impressive, and I like them a lot in this game against Oregon's offensive line. Number 7 are Indiana's linebackers. They've only allowed a 28.9% rushing success rate, so you have Isaiah Jones, Aiden Fisher, Elijah Hardy. They are the quarterbacks of this defense. And Aiden Fisher was an honorable mention All-American. He came back this year. They get to the quarterback well. They do a good job staying disciplined in their zone. This entire defense, really, the message is clear. If you can get, slices and little cuts here and there, 3, 4, 5, 6 yards, yeah, we'll give it to you sometimes. But you're going to have to do that every play to get down the field. The linebackers, the defensive line, the defensive backs all do a wonderful job at keeping everything in front of them. And speaking of the defensive backs, that's reason number 8. So Indiana's 7 interceptions, 12 passes defended, and they only allow 4.38 yards per dropback. Lewis Moore has been incredible at strong safety. Amari Farrell at free safety, returning starter from last year. Jamari Sharp and D'Angelo Pons have been a great corner duo, and Devin Boykin has had an impactful career so far as that 5th DB, that nickelback for Indiana, transferred in from NC State. I think these DBs, they don't have the star power of a Decorian Moore or even a Kenyon Sadiq, the equivalent of those two at DB, but I don't think that Khalil Benson, for example, or Kyler Casper or Gary Bryant are going to have an easy time getting open against these guys. So I think that Haines and the staff can do a little bit of delegation here and try and focus on some of Oregon's better receivers, and we'll see what happens with the remaining defensive backs for Indiana and the remaining receivers for Oregon. This is going to be a really good game, and you know what can help win a big game, a great game, a competitive game, an offensive line that only allows a 6.5% havoc rate and allows Indiana to run for 6.74 yards per carry. Already talked about this line. It's much better than Indiana's last year. A little bit weaker on the right side, just a little bit weaker there. Landon Tengwall has talked about this on his channel, but the left side and the center position are very strong. And the right side of Indiana's offensive line, I don't know if I'd call it a weak part, as in nationally it's a weak right side of the average college football offensive line, but it's weaker than the left side, and they've allowed some pressure from that area. So that's something to keep in mind, but overall it is a great unit. And I mean, that left side, especially Carter Smith at tackle and center Pat Coogan, those are future NFL linemen. Number 10 is the run game that obviously plays in with the offensive line. but they're ninth in rushing success rate. And Roman Hemby has been phenomenal. He's been a tackle buster, always powers forward for extra yards. He is someone who broke out early for Maryland and then transferred out because he just wasn't improving there. And he had to get a fresh start, and I think he has a fresh start here with Indiana. He's played very well, even though he doesn't have any rushing touchdowns. And then Kalen Black, Kobe Martin behind him, and you also have Fernando Mendoza with his legs. I think those factors and players can really help create a sustainable run game against an intimidating, powerful, strong, possibly elite Oregon defense. Those are 10 reasons why Indiana should beat Oregon. And I've picked Oregon to win this game. I've been honest about that. But I also picked Indiana to cover, and I do think Indiana is live here, or there's a very good chance that they are. They can win this game. There's a very good shot that the Indiana Hoosiers come out and defeat the Oregon Ducks. Again, because Oregon's the favorite, there's a theoretically an even better shot Oregon wins this game. But to be in this conversation, to have this many legitimate reasons for an Indiana victory is impressive, and it speaks to the culture and program and team that Curt Cignetti has constructed and nurtured. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure, if you haven't already, to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment your analysis and thoughts down below so I can reciprocate my thoughts with you in the comment section, and check out anything on these end screens that are up here. Whether it's a recommended video or playlists for teams that I'm talking about in a preview, prediction, or a reaction, make sure to hit the notification bell on those, scroll through them, and watch any suggested videos if you are interested. Thank you for helping College Football with Sam become the best and the biggest college football brand and channel on YouTube and other social media platforms. We will reach that one day because of your support.